The aulos was a popular wind instrument that was played by the ancient Greeks. It was also called kalamos or libikos lotos, which has to do with the material from which part the instrument was made, the reed and the Libyan lotus plant. How is the aulos made? The body of the aulos was crafted with wood, cane, bone, or metal. It had 3 or 4 finger holes and a bulbous socket that secured the reed at the top of the pipe. Interestingly, the instrument was actually 2 instruments in one, with one pipe held in each hand and played simultaneously. The aulos is a precursor to what we know today as the oboe. The Aulos's first remains were found to be existing as far back as 5000 BCE. However, this aulos was rudimentary and over time evolved into what we know the aulos to be at around 400 BCE. The aulos might have been the most commonly played instrument at the time and was often used in festivals, processions of births and deaths, theater, social occasions, and was associated with the god of wine Dionysius and played at private drinking parties. An interesting fact about the aulos is that it was used at athletic games to help keep their exercises in rhythm. It was also played by both men and women. Unfortunately, no compositions made specifically for the aulos have survived in their entirety. However, we know it was commonly used because of how often it is engraved into pottery and other pieces of art. The aulos was a bit of a controversial instrument, and I will touch on that more in the next slide. The aulos was played by some of the most famous musicians at the time as well as slaves, and often played by slaves. This sometimes created tensions and jealousies when slaves were chosen to play at certain events in place of those who believed they were of higher status and more formally trained. Later on, the aulos fell out of favor due to Alcibiades, an Athenian politician and military commander, scorned it as vulgar and slavish for not allowing the musician to sing or speak while being played. The aulos is played with one pipe in each hand, with the ability to play the same or different notes and rhythms at the same time. Holes are made in the aulos at a distance so that the Dorian, Lydian, and Phrygian scales can be played. A player puts both double-reeded instruments in their mouth the way an oboe player would and blows with tremendous pressure to sound both instruments. The player uses circular breathing so that a continuous sound can be made while they finger the holes on both instruments to create the desired pitches. The aulos has a haunting timbre that carries. It is essentially 2 different instruments with the possibility of 2 different melodies and rhythms to be played at once, creating a rich texture for a wind instrument. And lastly, I was honored to have watched a beautiful performance with the aulos about 1 year ago that I will share with you on the next slide.
So you'll notice that the techniques that are used by the pipers is circular breathing, where they're breathing in normally through their nose, they're holding the breath in their cheeks, and they're pushing it out. And at the same time, they are taking breaths in through their nose so that they can make a continuous sound, a bit like bagpipes, but doing it with their own bodies.
Thank you for watching my presentation on the aulos.